another marketing podcast.
We swore we were never going to do this.
But here we are.
Welcome to Behind the Brand, the podcast for small business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs who are ready to start strong, stand out, and stay bold. Hosted by the powerhouse marketers at Moxie Creative, we're bringing you behind the scenes as we explore what it takes to build and grow a memorable brand. Ready to get behind the brand? Let's dive in.
Social media. Every business knows they should be on it, but not everyone knows how to actually get results. Today, we're breaking it down with Moxie's very own social media manager, Isabella.
Hi, yes, me. I'm Isabella. It's my cue to go.
Very eagerly awaited social media episode.
I'm a social media manager at Moxie Creative. I manage most of our social media accounts, clients that we work with. And I have been doing this for the last over a year and a half.
Almost 2 years.
2 years in July. And before that, I was working at a tech startup based in Turkey. It was a marketing technology startup. And I kept meeting with potential leads and was thinking about what I wish I could do on their social media. And I realized, well, what am I doing in sales? I should go into marketing. And stars aligned, and I did. And I realized that I have a talent for being able to see the full kind of strategy in my head, and I've really been able to refine it. And now I'm in this episode wanting to kind of go over the things that if I would have known about at the beginning, it would have changed everything. And also just like what is working right now, because social media is a beast. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot, and I'm very thankful that you're here to A, teach me, and also B, so I don't have to do all of that, because I do manage one social media client, but it's kind of a rehearsed thing, right? We're just posting their events and these kinds of things. But you really, the clients that you manage for us, there's a lot of strategy that goes behind what you're doing, and you do a pretty kick-ass job of it. So let's get started maybe with the biggest question. Why should businesses actually be posting on social media? And I want to hear Isabella's standpoint, and I also want to hear Kelly's standpoint, because I think they both have the same end goal, but sometimes they see how they get there a little bit differently.
Gen X versus Gen Z.
I can offer some history.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Things I missed. Let's fill those in. Okay. The biggest thing, there are so many reasons why a business should be on social media, and it also just depends on the business. But number one, staying relevant. And I know that I'm just saying staying relevant, but there are so many reasons as to why that is important. Also because Gen Z is the largest generation, and if you can start marketing to them early, you're going to be ahead of the game in the long run. And we're getting to a point where if you're not on social media, you are behind. But there are so many reasons. I think the biggest reason that people want to be on social media is because they want sales. And while that is a really nice perk of social media, it's not always the biggest benefit that every business is going to have. And also, if you think of all the steps, there are so many steps that it takes in order to do social media well. And you have to get all those steps right for the most part to get sales organically. And we can go into more of what organic is, but it's not the paid advertising, paid media. And you can combine those to get better results, but ultimately it helps you have a clear vision in your brand. It helps you understand what your audience wants. It helps you understand your audience better as a whole, better customer care connection. It will help you bring more traffic to your website. It will help you keep your customers informed. There's so many things. And now I'm going to let Kelly go because I'm probably going to think of more, and she's going to fill in some gaps.
Okay, well, where should we start?
Right?
You started working marketing when social media was not a thing.
No.
And
we
now,
didn't even have email.
Yeah, right? Okay. And now it is a thing.
Yeah.
And how, I guess, maybe the same question but phrased a little bit differently, how has it evolved for businesses from your standpoint?
Okay, so I want to say around 2009 is kind of when Facebook kind of blew up. I don't know if that was the first year or that's when I joined, so
yeah.
I don't know. And everyone saw it as a free way to market your business. So of course people were making business pages a lot of times not correctly or whatever, but for the most part people were using it for their business the same way as they used it personally. And we know that's not actually the way to do a business page. But still, the early adopters were out there.
Probably saw some success.
Sure.
Because Facebook at that time hadn't caught on like Oh, we can
Yeah.
actually make money from these
Right,
businesses.
Yeah.
right. So people that did it, they thought, oh, it's free and we're going to do it. And then they realized, hey, it's a lot of work. But, if they were on early, they saw success, like you said. And then when the algorithms start changing and they started wanting you to pay to play, kind of, because the algorithms are such that not everyone sees your business post. And when that kind of changed, I want to say 2016-ish, 2017-ish, a lot of people just bailed on social media. It wasn't as easy, and people realized that it takes a long time. It takes a lot of your time, so it's not free in that sense, right? So I've seen it be everything. I've seen it be nothing to some businesses, and now we're seeing, again, that businesses who have ignored it are playing catch up or are behind. So if I could step back a little bit, it's hard for us to sometimes to get clients to understand the benefit of organic social media posting. And if they are looking for sales, like you said, Isabella, they should do an ad, right? Because that's not what social media is for. So we actually do quite a bit of paid social ads on Meta. However, you cannot do that without having your page flushed out also, because if you're doing an ad and people go to your page and you say, oh, they don't even post, you have to have both. I'm going in circles
No,
here.
but that's how you look credible,
Right.
and continue to nurture the relationship beyond just a sale.
Right.
Because also, there are retargeting in ads, but a lot of it is for acquisition, and you need to have other things in place that can nurture your audience and
Exactly.
keep them as returning customers.
So obviously big brands understand the importance of social media and organic social media, and even influencers and TikTok and Instagram and all of that. But let's just kind of bring it down to our local
Yeah.
community. I think a lot of people are like, you know what, I'm not going to post because it takes too much time, or I'm not going to post much because I don't know what to post. I mean, in all honesty, a lot of potential clients, I feel like people my age perhaps are not on Facebook, or maybe they've ditched Facebook altogether. I think when businesses don't have a strategy and they don't understand organic posting, they just perhaps don't do it or do it very little.
Yep.
And especially if the management doesn't use social media personally. So I have a lot of clients discredit social media as a marketing strategy because they're not on it.
Yeah.
And they don't understand that their customers are using it. If I can just go back to the pandemic, that's when we had, that was the only way to communicate with your customers, right? People realized fast that their website was outdated. How are they going to let people know if they were open, if they were closed, what's going on? And we saw social media blow up, remember?
Right.
The truth is that social media should be a part of your overall marketing strategy.
Yeah. Well, and especially going back to the pandemic, that was when I feel like a lot of people started to say okay, I want to know what the updates are, so I'm going to go to their social media because that's where I can get immediate updates. And now it's become a little bit more natural to get more information from someone's social media. So that's also why it's important to have it be professional, and it's an extension of your brand. It's a place where you can, if people don't know you personally or work with you personally, or depending on your business model, that is where you can show more of who you are, and also get a little bit more playful and really connect with your audience.
Exactly. So Taylor, let me ask you this. If
Yeah.
you go on someone's business page and they haven't posted in 3 years, what do you think?
Usually I'll jump to, well, maybe they're not even in business
Exactly.
anymore.
Exactly. So how much does that hurt you?
Yeah.
As a business owner,
Right.
just because you're not on it or you don't value it, you're giving an impression that maybe you're not in business anymore.
Right. And I think that when we're talking about smaller businesses, you can kind of assume, or some of them assume, okay, well, social media is something for big businesses.
Mm-hmm.
But as a small business, you can play as a big dog, and obviously the strategy is going to be different, but a lot of the overall method and what's there, you can still follow that, and it's very beneficial.
Would you say that most small businesses or businesses in general on social lack a strategy? They're just posting maybe
Yes.
what's happening, which is still better than not
Right.
posting. But
Updates are fine, but I think that a lot of it is just posting to post, and it's to me, I'm you're wasting time doing that, and not in the sense of, if you're giving updates and value, that's value, okay? So if you can at least do that, do that. But yeah, when you're just posting random things, it's not giving value to your audience, and it can, depending on what it is, it can hurt your brand negatively.
So
there
how-
needs to be a full strategy.
Yeah, so how do people get a strategy?
Yeah, so this kind of leads into the next part.
yeah.
So
I knew that.
we have a lot of businesses approach us about social media help. Some of them we move on to actually help, and some we don't. And some it happens in varying degrees. But when a business does come on to work with Moxie for social media, where do you start, Isabella? What does that initial strategy process look like?
Usually, the first thing is talking with the client, of course, and then that will usually lead me into understanding more of their brand, their business, what are their current marketing efforts. And then once it's a for sure thing that we're doing social media management, I will go into a full strategy. I usually have this idea in my head of what everything that I think should be done, but then I'll do the full actual research and planning so that I can fully align with research, insight, their audience. And so that will start with, the first thing is a SWOT analysis. So that helps me get a full, and I'll say what a SWOT analysis is, that helps me get a full overview of their strengths, the S, weaknesses, the W, opportunities, the O, and T, the threats. That will help me know where their brand is really strong, where they are really weak, what opportunities are they lacking in, and what are the potential threats that I should be aware of, whether it's something with the economy or something that's related to their industry. And then that will lead me into my competitor research, and that will help me get a lot more insight on what are other competitors doing, what is working, what is going on in the industry, what do I need to be aware of, and that will also then help me go back into my opportunities in the SWOT analysis for, okay, I see gaps now. So what gaps can I fill in? And then with tying in the SWOT analysis with the competitor research, I'll say, okay, so I've seen now these weaknesses. Like my client has these strengths, or this business has these strengths. I think that my client has these weaknesses. How can I flip the script on whatever that weakness is? Then I'll go into an audience analysis. This is the most important part because I can do everything, and if I don't analyze the audience and fully understand who the audience is, what they want, why they want to buy, what they find value in, I'm not going to be able to produce content that resonates with the audience. And if I don't put out content that resonates, it's not getting engagement. And I don't think that likes are everything, but engagement still is a measure of telling me if people are resonating with the content that I'm putting out.
Okay, explain engagement.
And so engagement is likes, shares, comments, all
reactions,
that.
Correct?
Reactions, yeah. And so typically saves are, if I put out an educational post for a client, the saves are telling me that people really like this content, they find it valuable, they learned from it, and they're saving it because they're either following it and they want to come back to it later. Maybe they don't follow, but they don't want to follow the account. That is another big thing with Instagram is ever since people have been able to save posts, businesses haven't been getting as many followers because people don't want to have to follow all these business pages, so they'll just save posts. So the save still tells you a lot, especially because you can also track the Explore page of how many people that don't follow you saw your post.
Okay, let's go back to audience real quick. I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes when businesses post and it kind of, the messages fall short, it almost feels like sometimes they're posting for themselves and not for the audience.
Yes, I have a note about this because I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So with the audience analysis, like I said, you'll completely understand what the typical persona of your audience is. You know, there's usually multiple personas, of course.
Right.
And then you'll be able to understand, like, the example I like to use is say that your audience is a bunch of middle-aged men, right? And you are a girl managing that social media account, and you see a Taylor Swift meme that you just think is so funny. And you're like, I could make a reference of this on the account. And then you're like, oh, I could do one of The Office. It should be clear that, you know, you should make the Office reference, not the Taylor Swift reference, because it's just not going to land with them. And that is just a very, like, general
Unless it's her at a
example.
football game.
Right.
That one would.
Right.
Yeah.
It would if you're including the Chiefs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of like how you guys are constantly sending severance memes and I don't understand
right.
that.
Exactly. That is one thing.
That's not funny.
So with Severance,
now
you have
I-
to make sure you have a bit of a Gen Z and millennial audience.
I'm just going to give you my Apple TV login so you can just watch it.
You need to watch
When?
it.
I don't have time. I know, but
Whole weekend.
I just caught up on Yellowstone. I'm like 4 years behind.
Once you start, you'll wonder why you didn't start sooner.
And then you guys will be on to the next show. So, okay,
So-
knowing your audience, you guys
Okay.
need to know your audience.
So once you have done your SWOT analysis, you've done the competitor research, you've done your audience analysis, then you can start to think of what your brand positioning should be. And through the brand positioning, you will understand the content that you should put out.
What's the brand position?
Brand positioning is how you position your brand to your audience. What are the strengths that you show them that you have? What kind of culture should you show them? What kind of entertainment or educational content like how do you want to position
And you
your
type all that
brand?
up in the strategy?
Yes, I put all, it's like a over 20 page
Yeah,
strategy.
your strategies are
Yeah, okay.
intense.
And so,
But in a good way.
Yeah. And so then from that, I will be able to do different content buckets.
Well, they're categories.
Yeah,
different
categories,
types of
different categories.
Which I feel like you've kind of touched on a little bit. Culture, education.
Entertainment.
Yeah, products,
Yeah.
all
this,
of those things.
These things help when people go, I don't know what to post.
Yes.
They shouldn't be random posts
Exactly.
out of the air. They fall in one of these categories,
And that
which
was-
we call buckets.
Yes.
And that all aligns with the strategy.
Yep. And it saves you so much time once you figure out
Yeah.
what kind of content works, because then you can kind of just keep recycling it in different ways. Every month, you can have these different themes and you just continue to follow them, and you're able to kind of create a web of content, so you just never really run out of ideas.
Right. So it's kind of like I'm going to do 2 culture posts a month, 3 entertainment,
Yep.
4 education, whatever
it
those
is.
are,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
I want to kind of touch on a little bit. We talked about, okay, how you get started and what that strategy process looks like. But what does it look like beyond the strategy if we go into social media management? And I want to touch on this because I don't think that the everyday person, and sometimes I feel like even Kelly and I who work with you, like maybe don't fully understand what is all going into social media management. And with clients, I think that there can be a bit of a roadblock, like, because going back to what you talked about in the beginning, when social media hit the scene, it was free. And now here we are telling them to do it correctly and to do it well, it's actually not free. And
You need help with it.
yeah,
It's a lot
and
of work,
and
yeah.
there can be like a mental block there to get past. So I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about what that social media management package looks like and how it can benefit a client.
Yeah. So after the strategy development, we typically go right into the content creation. And how that works for me is I will lay out all of the different content for a month that we're going to create, and I will get an overview of it, and I will give that to a graphic designer for them to create all of the different posts, and then they will do that. I will create all the captions for those, and even though we have great things like AI to help with stuff like that, my biggest thing that I've realized, especially I think because of maybe AI, is that content that feels very human, like in the caption specifically, that doesn't sound like it's coming directly from a marketer, is always going to perform way better. So AI cannot write you captions until maybe it's been trained very well and you are still doing most of the work that your audience will deeply connect with. Because
Right,
it
you
just
can
doesn't
almost
sound
tell
human.
which ones are written
Exactly.
by AI.
100%.
So all the content that I'm producing, sometimes I have moments where I'm like, oh, let me just see if ChatGPT can come up with better content ideas than me or write a better caption than me. And most of the time I'm like, nope, I have to go back to square one. I have to do what works for me that I come up with. So it's a lot of brain power that comes into that full content creation. But on top of that, you also need the photos, videos, the graphics that are designed by the designer. The designer needs to have the software, and it's not cheap. If you do photos, you can either do those from an iPhone, or you can do professional photos. Videos, you can, again, either do from the iPhone or you can do professional videos. I have clients where I'll do like content sessions and I have to create a full brief of all the sessions that we're going to do. That involves a lot of research and figuring out the exact details around that. And then once we do manage to get all of that done, which all of that work is about 8 hours of work, coming from like someone who like knows what they're doing at first. When it's like the first time doing a client, it takes
Right.
way more than that.
So thinking of it that way, it's actually, it's pretty affordable. It's
Yeah.
just that a lot of clients aren't used to paying anything monthly.
Right.
That's the thing. Social media management, it is a big expense, but to me it's not, because I know how much goes into it, and I think we all feel that way, and the people that do spend the money on it and see it, or maybe have tried doing it themselves, they know that.
Right. And so you
So-
do have a portfolio of clients that you've been working with,
Yeah.
some newer, some, for a year or so, and they are seeing the organic growth, and
Yeah.
you have some case studies to prove
Yeah.
it, and they're on board. It's just that initial kind of a leap
Yeah.
into, because it's hard for people to understand. And I love it that now we do have some case studies that we can show clients. Look what Isabella's done here, look what Isabella's done there. I had an idea. I was going to say something. Oh, at a confession. So, yeah, true confession time. About 15 years ago, I want to say, we were doing our own social media. Back to your graphics thing. Graphics should be original. I mean, if you're doing
Yeah.
a meme, that's okay to borrow, but graphics should be original. Like, we were using Google Photos or just Googling a photo, And I had an artist tell me, we need to create our own. You can't do that. Well, this was like in the, this was in the,
Back when it did matter
yeah,
as
well,
much.
back when nobody knew any different.
Way
Yeah.
back in the
But
day.
I mean, some client DIY, you might not know that.
Yeah,
You
and
can't
it's just
grab
it's
a
so
photo.
funny. Like you're have a creative agency where you have designers to create them, and you're just grabbing from Google.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Exactly.
Because it didn't seem that serious, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean,
seem
okay. I
Yeah.
mean, there's stock photos you can use, and
Yeah.
you can,
Right.
royalty free
can make it
stock
work,
photos.
but
But
to
just
finish
for
original.
anyone out there doing it themselves,
Do not just
if
grab
you
from
see
Google.
something you like, recreate it.
Yeah,
if,
right.
at the least.
I
Yeah.
always say that it's inspiration. It's not necessarily copying, unless you copy it like exact.
Right.
But
Yeah.
But I mean, you
I actually
cannot
have
like.
a confession too.
Oh, okay,
gosh, we're all
go.
So
confessing.
before I started working with you, Kelly, I was at my previous job where I was working in-house and feeling very like, I'm just so ready to like move on from this and whatever. And so I tried my hand at doing some like social media stuff freelance. I was doing it for one of my cousins. And
Yep.
then I was actually doing it for my boss's wife at the time. She was in real estate, and I can't even remember what the post was about. It was maybe something about like Cold Spring because that's where they lived. And I went to Google and I found this picture, and it was from like, it was like out on a website or whatever. And so I put it out on their Facebook, and she emails me the next day, like someone called me and sent me, like left me a
Yeah.
really angry voicemail that I used a photo of their house. And I was like, oh my God, I'm mortified.
No, sure.
But like
And I
for
think
real,
it's
that has happened to me.
Right, and I think it's because we're so used to sharing things on social
Yeah.
media. What's the big deal if I use
Right.
this photo?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's someone's real house
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
with their address or whatever.
Okay.
It was like their backyard against the river. So actually, I don't even think anybody would have been able to know. But still, he was pissed off.
That's
Right,
so
and there
funny.
could be copyright issues,
Yeah.
and so like
Yeah.
be careful.
So there was a couple things I didn't mention yet of the other things that I do, but
Yes.
I do want to say that one of the other things that I have to do is blah 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 offensive. Is like I have to look up certain things of you have to really think about every single detail of what you put out because everything is changing so quick, and you have to make sure that you're not putting anything out
Okay,
that could offend
let's
someone.
before you move on, let's just say, okay, what if you did? Okay, now we've seen some
Right.
big brand kind of
Yeah.
fails here and there on social media. You take a risk or whatever.
Sticker mule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bud Light or whatever, which I disagree. I don't think that's offensive, but whatever. What do? You get back on
get creative-
and you
creativity
say,
can
"Oh,
solve any
sorry,"
problem.
or didn't realize it. You
No.
kind of admit it, and right?
Yeah, I think that you find a way to creatively be like, I messed up.
Yeah.
I think that creativity can solve any problem. So in that sense, if you can just be like, yeah, we messed up.
Make a joke about it. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Give
If
like a
it's-
genuine
as long as it's not too
apology.
sensitive, yeah, give a genuine apology and find a way to turn it around.
Right. Can't just ignore that it happened.
Right.
Yeah. So the other things that are part of social media management is engagement and community management. Posting and ghosting is not going to work.
Okay, explain that.
So
Gen Z
posting and
term.
ghosting is you put out content and then you never go back on the page, you never engage.
Okay, that happens a lot with businesses, doesn't it?
It does, and it's hard, but there really is a difference between when you do and when you don't.
Okay, because I was noticing people were like over the weekend, a couple weekends ago, people were commenting on ours, and I'm like, should I go in there and? I mean, it's okay if we help you, right? Because I'm
Right.
like, okay, no one's commenting back. And
I
then
did
thought,
respond to all of those.
oh yeah, I think Taylor helped
Yeah.
too. But anyway, so that's what that means. It means
Yeah.
that when people are engaging, if you don't engage back or thank them for the post or
Yeah.
whatever, then it just looks like you're just.
Yeah,
Throwing
people
stuff out there.
won't feel
And some-
confident enough to comment again. Or
And some
yeah.
companies that will do your social media management, they are just pushing out posts.
and they're not actually on the page.
They're not looking at messages. They're not commenting. They're not
Yeah.
doing any of that. That's one difference in our service.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
Most of the time. Okay.
Yeah, there's certain cases but no, yeah. So
Oh, we encourage the clients to do it also.
yeah,
to
right.
help
There's our
us.
packages where that's just not in the package that of us doing
Right,
it.
but I mean, so it's important to monitor.
Exactly.
And
That's
to
really
read the
important to monitor.
comments and
Yeah,
to,
because you learn a lot through that.
Right, the feedback, right?
And then the other thing is reviewing analytics and refining. I feel like
Nobody
another thing
likes
is-
that
No one
part.
likes that part, but I will say that when you're putting out a bunch of content, you can kind of see from an outside perspective, okay, like what performed, what didn't, but you're really not going to know until you get into like seeing every single detail, especially with like reels. Reels, you can find out what was the average watch time. Like when did people start scrolling away?
Was it too long?
Right. So was
Yeah.
it too long? You can see like, okay, I used a hook in this one, and I didn't use a hook in that one. You can always see the difference between
What's a
those.
hook?
Oh, sorry. So a hook is used in a either Instagram carousel. Carousel is multiple images you can swipe through, or in the beginning of a reel or a video.
Hook, you mean a message?
And so a hook would be, yep, so a hook is the message that hooks you in. So as it's scroll stopping. So it's to stop the scroll. You hook them in.
Okay.
You usually do something, there's a visual hook. So it's something that you're visually doing if there's a person in the video, and then there's an on-screen hook, which would be a message. The best thing to do is to have both.
I see.
So
that's in your monthly reporting that you provide, correct?
I go through everything. It depends on the client and what content we're putting out, but yeah, it'll go through all the engagement, link clicks, likes.
Okay,
and all
but if
that.
if a business is doing this on their own, they can get that reporting from Meta or whatever.
They could get some of it from Meta.
Right.
Yeah.
But, okay.
But they also might not really understand what to do with that information. because
Exactly.
There's so much knowledge that comes in. Like, I am specialized in social media, but anyone that's not in that and they're specialized in whatever they're actually doing, you don't have the bandwidth to be able to be specialized in social media and whatever you're doing. It's a lot.
Right.
It takes so much time. Like, I've been learning this for so long on my own, and that's the expertise that I bring in with the clients. And I'm also keeping up with all of it. I'm keeping up on what's trending. I'm keeping up with all the algorithm changes.
Do you keep up on trending audio?
Recently I haven't been keeping up on
That's a
trending
running
audio.
joke here because
Yeah,
I'm
it
like,
is.
what's trending audio?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I've been preferring original audio now.
Oh, I like it. Okay, cool. So let's go back to the reporting. So we like, I like what you said that yes, you can pull reports from, let's say, Meta, for example, but if you don't know what they mean, I mean, you don't know which
How to revise it.
KPI to look at. Like, well, like you might just think likes is it.
Yeah, right.
Likes is not
It's
it.
not.
We like engagement better, or yeah, how do we monitor and we adjust, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because a lot of and I'm going to get into the whole marketing funnel with social media, but like a lot of that highest liked content is the top of, if we're looking at marketing as a funnel, that top of the funnel content is always the most liked, and that is important to have, but it doesn't mean that you should just focus on that, because with a good strategy where every single post you're putting out is valuable, the lowest liked content, once you've figured out your strategy, like I was saying, is always going to be kind of like the sales promoting things, and that doesn't mean that you shouldn't put that out. It just means that since it's sales and promoting, it's going to have lower likes. So you need to have a mix of all of it, because the higher liked top of funnel is going to cue to Instagram's algorithm, Facebook's algorithm, that people like your content, so let's keep putting it out to people. And then when you do that sales content, which is why you shouldn't do it too much, it'll still go out to those people to an extent, but then it won't hurt you negatively too much when you don't get as much engagement on
Why
it.
have I been working in marketing for 10 years and I feel like something just clicked for me here?
I'm telling you, everything that I'm going to say in this podcast today is stuff that I'm like, if I would have known this day one, it would have
Yeah.
changed everything.
What do you mean changed everything?
Like
you be in New York working on a big brand?
No,
or what?
changed everything in the sense of I've spent so many hours researching this. Like, and there were times when then
you
all of a sudden
should.
hours,
You're young.
right? But like, I would have times where I would like be like, why is it not clicking? Why don't I just get it? Like, why do I suck at this? And then all of a sudden I hear one thing, one sentence on something, and I'd be like,
Well,
that's all
'cause
it
you
took
have to continually
change.
learn 'cause everything
So
keeps
right, it's like
changing.
your brain connects and it's all this stuff. But like, still, anyways, yeah.
Okay, this is one thing I've learned, and I'm just going to say this on a very top level. You shouldn't sell on social. I mean, you can
Too much.
sell.
Soft
yeah,
sales.
Soft sales, right. And I feel like, I mean, we all follow business pages that all they are doing is selling.
Yeah. Mhm.
And when it gets to that point, it's like they should be doing
Yeah.
ads,
Yeah.
Exactly.
not organic. Organic is for brand awareness, connecting with your audience,
Yeah.
a little soft sell
Yeah.
here or there, but not every post.
Yeah.
Which
The-
sorry, go
No,
ahead.
that's okay.
I was just going to say that my selling that I do is I'm giving you value in the post, and then it's linked to whatever it is that I'm soft selling. I'm
Right.
not just saying buy this.
Right, but I feel like a lot of clients expect
They-
us to do that,
right, and you
they
shouldn't.
think that that's what we should be doing on social, but you just lose followers
You do
that way.
You do, and you'll
And then
signal
at
to the
that point-
algorithm that people don't like your content, and then it won't get pushed out as much.
Right, and let's say you're having a sale. Yes, we can post that organically, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
then you need an ad
Yeah.
because ads are just built differently and they reach differently
Yeah.
than organic.
And people take them in differently, whether
Yes.
they're consciously doing it or subconsciously doing it. The way that people view an organic social post versus an ad is different for a reason. So yeah, it makes sense to.
Let's say
look
you're
it
a
up.
retail store and you're constantly just posting about sales. You're not going to gain followers. You're not going to have interaction.
Yeah,
Like,
people are
okay,
gonna be like, yeah.
you told me about the
Yeah.
sale, and
Yeah,
now I know.
but
the
also
sale.
like, well, they just have another sale this week. Like all they do is have sales.
Yeah.
Like,
Right,
that's not
and-
exciting.
Well, and so it's like, yep, I see it. Why should I engage? You're
Right.
not giving me anything of value.
Yeah. So that kind of leads into the next point here, talking about, having an engaged community and some of the things that you've hit on. One, okay, let's not sell all the time, but let's educate and let's entertain. So can you maybe break down a little bit
Yeah.
of those, like some
So,
examples of those?
The biggest thing with social media and having a successful strategy is you're not selling your services, you're not selling your product, you're selling the experience of it or the results of it. One of my favorite examples I've seen is that airlines don't sell seats on a plane or tickets. They're selling you a vacation, or they're selling you to see your family. They're selling you an experience. And so the same goes for social media. I'm going to go over two different scenarios with clients that I have where, because education and entertainment are probably the two biggest ones that have the most success. And that doesn't mean that you should just focus on those, but like you need to have content that your audience can look forward to. Like they want to keep coming back to your page because they're expecting this content once a week or maybe multiple times a week, whatever it is. So we have a hop farm out in Washington. I knew that we couldn't just promote the hops and call it a day. I had to sell the end result to the brewer. When you drink your beer, like what are you going to notice from these hops in it? And so I came up with doing hop highlights and different like brewing with hops to do and hop pairings and all of that. And that's what the most successful content
Yeah, it's
is
been
on
so successful
their
for them.
social media. And every time you put something out like that, they gain followers. Brewers are sharing it to their stories. You're getting saves.
Because you knew the audience.
Because I know the audience. That is the biggest
Okay,
thing.
in case people at home want to play along and look this up, it's Hops Direct, correct? And they're a hops farm, and they sell direct to brewers.
Yes.
Not the people who drink the beer necessarily,
Yeah,
but
to
the
brewers that
brewers.
are
So you
brewing
knew the
beer.
audience, and
Yeah.
that's the research you
And
did.
that's the other thing, that if we're going into why it is important to have a social media manager, obviously maybe someone at Hops could have done that. That is a scenario where I do see fit for like an in-house person, but not just like someone who doesn't really know much about social media, because this is a client who has like over 11,000 followers on Instagram, and they have brewers that love them. They have a reputation. If I get on their social media and I start putting out content that is not right, I'm putting out misinformation about hops and things to brewers where brewers are also experts on these hops. And if I just sound dumb, that is going to be so bad for them.
Right.
So it really is important to know the audience, but also know what you are promoting.
Okay, that's a good point. Let's just say they had somebody, and they did. I
They
think
did,
when
yeah.
they had an internal person posting, and maybe it was all about what's going on at the farm.
Right.
Which
are
it
those-
was.
Okay, cool. Which are those updates you talked about, which is cool
Yeah.
and awesome, but it can't all be that, right?
Mhm. Yep, exactly. And that's where when I was doing the audience research for them, I kept seeing all these competitors who are larger than them, so they were getting more engagement because the community in general just knows them more. But none of them were posting the kind of content that I felt like brewers were. They're posting the updates, and they're posting the pictures of the hop fields and
here we're
all that
plowing
stuff.
fields,
right?
or
And they
we're-
would post like photos of the hops with like different like, here's the alpha acids and whatever. Like you don't know what that. You're listening to this. You probably don't know what an alpha acid means with the hop. And I was like, I knew that one of the biggest audiences that our client had was home brewers. And so I was like, I find it hard to believe that they know what all of this means. So let's break it down in a way that is
Digestible, yeah.
digestible and easier to understand, and not feel like we're gatekeeping this to just commercial brewers. So that is
Yes,
yeah.
more than one audience.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's
So
important.
catering to multiple, and that's what really did work, and that's what the other social media accounts in their industry weren't doing.
Okay, shameless plug. You
I've-
recently won an award for that account.
did.
Yeah.
That was really
okay,
exciting.
and it wasn't an award about necessarily about the success of the strategy. It was for the graphics, which you are very much a part of too. I mean,
Yeah.
so let's talk about the importance of
Yeah.
not just the message, but the images and the
the
videos you pair
visuals.
with
So
it,
something
right?
I kind of almost got, no, I didn't get in trouble for it, but we had a conversation one day because things were taking me too long at the beginning of doing this client, and I think I started crying. And Kelly and Taylor, they were trying to help me. They were like, you just say the kind of post you want and give and give Brittany, our designer, like one thing about it and like give it to her and she'll figure it out. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I like figuring it all out. I would like go on Pinterest or go on Canva and I would create these like mock-ups of like what I wanted Brittany to create.
yeah.
But it worked out well because I love it so much, and now she's able to streamline it and just like go off and do it. But like I had a vision for it, and I'm not technical with graphic design and stuff,
Yeah,
but I
you
have
have to-
visions that I
okay.
want to
So,
put out.
so what's the result now? So why did you win this award?
The result was having
Your brain and her brain
yes,
together.
come together.
Yeah.
And it's so awesome because growing up, I have always been someone who had all these visions for things, and I can never produce them because I'm not good at painting, I'm not good at drawing, I'm not a good graphic designer. And so it was like literally a dream come true. I didn't even expect it to like ever really happen, that when I came here, I also I'd be able to work with someone who could bring my visions to life. And it's
Yeah.
honestly so
Well,
amazing.
we're,
That's
we're
what-
creative in a
that's what
different
that-
way.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Yes.
what exactly
Yeah.
what we do as a team.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we all have our own.
But you're
strengths.
the art director for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And so together you guys won this really
Yes.
cool Gold
Gold
Addy.
Gold
Ad-
Addy,
Yeah,
American
for
Advertising Award.
and I didn't know if I saw any other social media
No
accounts
no,
win.
I think social is one of those categories that's really hard to win.
Well,
for.
don't
It
you
doesn't
think
happen
we're
often.
just people are just slapping stuff up?
Yeah.
But you just proved that the imagery matters.
It does.
and
It-
helps. We have a great case study on our website about this.
Yeah.
This client too about
Yeah.
The improvements that you've made in the last year.
Yeah.
For them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other client that I was going to bring up when we're going on the entertainment side is we have a client who does promotional apparel.
Boring.
Right, exactly. No one wants to follow that. Oh, you just made a
You embroider.
corporate
Yeah.
like print T-shirt. Like no one.
You make
I'm sorry,
hats.
No one cares.
Nice.
Boring.
No one.
I'm just saying.
Love you
Go
guys.
listen to this.
If you're listening
Could
to
be
this,
boring, but we don't make
Uber
it boring.
Nancy.
No.
But they're not boring people.
No,
That's
they're
not what I meant.
so fun.
that's the
people.
point. So that's where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Don't steal my thunder. No. So
I was trying to recover that.
when we sat down with them, I remember thinking, what am I gonna do for their social media? Like no one wants to see this
But
stuff.
they have fun
And
personalities.
so all of a sudden we get to talking and get to know them, and I get to know them, and I'm like, I love these guys, and they tell me that their clients love them, their customers love them. They have customers who are like, "Bye, love you" on the phone, and so I was like, okay, so this is the kind of client where all of a sudden you're like, we're going full in on entertainment. Not full in, obviously we have other content too that still promotes what they're doing, but I slowly made them come out of their shell with doing content. First I started with the trending audios and stuff, and trending reels.
yeah,
which-
make them look hip.
Yeah.
Right,
and there was some really funny ones.
Yeah, people loved it right off the bat.
Okay, we should mention that they're family too.
They are,
Yes.
yes,
It's
they're
a mom,
family,
dad, and a son.
and then a family friend, and then so a couple family friends.
Yeah,
but
so
then,
that makes it
mom,
even
dad, and
kind
son
of
owners.
funnier.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny, and so I was able to like understand like what their audience was enjoying seeing, and then kind of just continue to play off that. And then after a while, I was like, okay, we've done enough of the trending stuff. Let's get into doing more original content.
And original audio.
With original audios
Okay,
and
cool.
scripts written by me and all these skits.
And then
that I
you're playing the
write.
guitar. And how
and-
do you make the original audio?
No, so the original audio is like them acting stuff out, like us, like this. When I post
White
a
Wolf
video-
Family Band.
I wonder
So I
why we're
started-
going over
so
on
I
our
made them start a
hours.
band. Anyways, no, so
Isabel's hiring musicians.
I'm writing songs and I'm a musician. I'm a producer. No, so when I
we
post
need
a
to charge
video,
them more.
when I post a video of us talking on social media with this is an original audio, being original. So same idea.
I think the word audio confuses me,
So
but I get it.
I wanted to have the idea of what it was is that all their competitors post just photos of their work, and
Here's this
cool.
logo on a shirt.
yeah,
Here's that
right,
logo
yeah.
on a shirt.
And it's like, okay, nice. Okay, I'm getting sick of this.
Right.
So what should we sell? We should sell the people that you get to work with.
Exactly.
And the fact that they care so much about getting new things for you and standing out and creating great work and that's
that's
what I
their
wanted
value
to highlight.
proposition,
Yeah, that is
right?
their value.
Yeah.
Just like they're like, we want to make you stand out. And so when I wanted people to see their content, and because it is for brand awareness, and I wanted people to keep seeing them and think, oh my gosh, I just love working with them. They are so funny. I wanted to make them make their customers smile whenever they'd see them on their page, because that is honestly then, as soon as the need comes up for what they provide, it's like, okay, I'm going to go work with them because I love their stuff.
Okay.
And I've even had people in the comments being like, I'm so glad I buy from you guys.
Oh,
Because
that's
their
cool.
videos. Yeah.
That's cool. So, been doing it for a few months. I'm not sure if you have any stats or case studies or successes to share with them. I mean, they're fun.
Yeah.
But it's grown their business. Yes, no?
Well, I know that their business in the last year has grown by somewhere, I don't remember, it was somewhere between 30 and 50%. And we have done their website, their social media. I think that you can't fully track with social media, like,
Sure.
conversions and
Sure, but more
all
people
of that.
know their name now.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
we needed to know.
definitely.
They were relatively new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've
they
gotten
weren't doing anything on social
Yeah.
before. So
They did tell me that someone, 'cause they work with different clothing companies, of course, and one of the clothing companies wanted like a sponsored post on their page. I know that they get a lot of feedback from people, like they always, wherever they go. And
Well, pretty
people know
soon
them,
you
they
should be
say
able to
stuff.
look year over year at your social reporting, right?
Well, and so I can see from the reports that they're doing really well. They perform like they're a big account.
Okay.
A lot of the time, yeah, and
That's great.
yeah, like a lot of great things. So I would imagine that
Yeah, you don't always know how it equates to
'cause
dollars.
I can't, right, because there's not like you have to reach out to them in order to
I just meant
do like a sale.
You've on your reporting, you can see
Yeah.
that it's grown. A
Yes,
ton
on my
by the
reporting, I could see
content.
that it's been
Yeah.
successful so far. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Great.
absolutely. I think the biggest thing that we haven't touched on yet is when maybe it's time to make the decision to outsource. It's not always maybe the most comfortable choice or just the first choice. Again, going back to like, this should be free, but to do it well and to do it correctly, it's going to come with a little bit of an investment, but hopefully from this conversation, you can tell that is a worthwhile investment. So Isabella, as our social media manager, when do you feel like is the right time for someone to reach out about outsourcing?
When you want greater results through social media, when you need more brand awareness, when you've tried it and it didn't work, when you need more time back because you're trying to do it, when you're trying to stay up to date, trying to evolve. There's so many different reasons, and I feel like you probably
Right.
can touch
Yeah.
on that as well.
Yeah, I think that also if you have someone internally do it, which is always an option, I feel like you lack that outside perspective because you're in it. So I also feel like, yeah, again, if content isn't resonating, and you should be able to see that from your analytics, then it's time to outsource. Also, when you outsource to us or another agency, you're not outsourcing just a social media manager, you're getting a full team. And so we have the experience and we have the designers and the video editors and everyone to help you. It's just, it's a bigger beast than it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you can take a look at some of the clients that we manage, like Hops Direct and White Wolf Custom Apparel and Design, and you can see what the end result looks like. And I mean, it's beautiful, it's well thought out. And
It's award-winning.
Yeah, award-winning, and it performs well. But none of that is done in just a short amount of time. It does take a lot of resources, whether that be time or money or both. Bringing this kind of all together, Bella, if you had to give, maybe one piece of advice to a business who's struggling with their social media, what would it be?
I would say that even though we're talking about the importance of the polished graphics and the photos and the videos, don't worry so much about that. Worry more about who you're understanding your audience. Because even if your content isn't polished, perfect, like you see other businesses are maybe, if you understand your audience and your main focus is just to put content out that your audience resonates with, that is way better than anything else that you could be doing on your own, just like posting and not knowing a strategy or trying to just take a photo off Google or just putting things out to put things out. Know your audience
It's all
and
about-
create
well,
content
that's-
around that. Even if it's just grabbing your phone and starting a video and posting it, or taking a picture of something and having a caption that has more insight, but it's targeted towards your audience. Whatever it is, just focus on your audience.
It's great advice.
Yeah.
For all marketing, actually.
Yeah, exactly. I love it. So, if you're managing social media on your own, if you could take one thing from today's episode and apply it this week, whether it's refining your content strategy, engaging with your audience, or rethinking your brand's approach, you will be taking a step forward. And if you're ready to level up your social media, reach out. We'd love to help you build a strategy that actually works. And when I say we, I mean Isabella.
Yay, Bella.
Yay, bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Behind the Brand. If you liked this episode, share it with a friend. If you didn't, share it with an enemy. To keep up with us, follow along on our socials. Links are in the show notes below.